Well, the thing I wanted to go over with you today is some things that have changed just a little bit, some new things that have come about. You see, people were sharing Zoom links. So, this is the first thing I'll tell you about. People were sharing their Zoom links in a public way, like they were just publishing it to a website or social media or someplace, and they weren't using any passwords or any kind of security measures, and absolutely anybody could click the link and join the video. Well, this has created a problem, and we now have a new word for this. It's called Zoom bombing. So have you heard about this? This is the thing that's happening. Zoom bombing. Well, that's where someone comes into a Zoom room that you're hosting and they basically hijack it from you. They start sharing their screen. They can start sharing inappropriate images or videos or filling up the chat with garbage. And for someone that's not ready for that to happen, someone that might not be as technically adept at using these tools, this would take them off guard and they wouldn't know what to do about it. So as you can imagine, they were taking advantage of people just not being very familiar with the platform and taking over their meetings. So this week, Zoom has done a system-wide sweep of all of the way that their website or the events are scheduled, and they've implemented some of these things that used to be options are now being forced for you to use by default. Now, it seems to me that you can still uncheck these boxes and take off these restrictions. However, I might recommend that you just leave those restrictions in place because they really are for your protection, and they're for the protection of the people in your group. Imagine a classroom of kids, if you will, and a teacher that's trying to present some material, and then somebody else comes into that room and shares something really inappropriate. We don't want that to happen, obviously. So if you put a password in place on that, that will stop that from happening if you don't publish that information, right? So a couple things I wanted to go over with you today. These two features have now been turned on automatically for everybody's Zoom, and here's what they are: passwords and waiting room. So a couple things to tell you. When you create your Zoom meetings in advance or on the fly, when you hit the button that says new meeting go, it's going to automatically assign a password, and it looks to be a random 6-digit number. You can change that. You can change that password to be whatever you want. It can be letters or numbers. So it could be, today's date, or it could be the name of your pet, or it could be, whatever you want it to be, or a combination, right? I could put April, spell out April 2020. That could be my password, right? It doesn't matter what you make it as long as you share with your people what the password is. So when you're creating that Zoom, when you're scheduling that event, which we went over 2 episodes on exactly how to do that little password field, go ahead and leave it checked. Make a note of what that password's going to be. Update it to something else if it's easier for you to remember or share. And I would say keep that involved. Keep that in place. Now, the cool thing about the password feature is when you start the Zoom room and you get the information out of the Zoom software, they can give you, follow me on this, they can give you the link right to the room, and then you have to separately give someone the password that they have to type in, or they can embed the password directly into the link. Now, you've got to be careful where you share that link because it's got the password embedded into it. But the benefit of that is you could then take that password and you could email or text it specifically to someone, like one person that you wanted to have. Or if you had a group chat or a group email with your small group of people, you could send that link directly to them. They could click the link. It's going to go ahead and automatically bring them into the room and enter that password for them. So that is something that you can do. That's a benefit you can use, and it makes it a little bit easier to use the password feature, but still share it with your people and allow them to quickly use it and get in. If they don't have that specific link, you have to give them the password separately, and they'll have to type it in separately. Let me know if you have any questions on that. A lot of these things are changing every day, and I'm happy to answer your follow-up questions whenever necessary. The next thing that just became mandatory is what they called the waiting room. Now, I typically was not using that feature in my rooms because I wanted my people to just be able to jump in the call with, no restrictions, no obstacles. The people that I work with, I want them to have no barrier to entry. Come on in and we'll chat and we'll figure it out when you get here. But this is a new thing that's been added, and it surprised me when I had a Zoom the other day because this wasn't a setting I ever had, and it popped up and it was forced to happen. So this is what happens when you enter the room and you have this waiting room feature enabled, which by default you may now have enabled. What's going to happen is people will not automatically all join the room together. They're going to be parked over here in this waiting room area. They cannot speak to each other. They cannot interact with each other in that room. But you, the host, will be notified here in the main room that you have people waiting in the waiting room. When you're ready, you can open it up. You can click the one button that says admit everyone, and everyone will come swooping into the room. Or you can use this strategically. Here's a really cool way to use this. This might give you the opportunity to kind of meet ahead of time with your team to go over some kind of information before you open up the meeting or the call to everybody else. So imagine that your call, I'm just going to call it a call. Your call is scheduled for 11 a.m. in the morning. You and your team could get on a few minutes ahead of time, what did I say, 11, 10, 45, 10:50, and join the call. Anyone that joins the call, and everybody is going to go into this waiting room where they get a message that says, thank you for waiting. The host is going to start the meeting soon, or something like that. By the way, you can customize all that text. I was playing with it yesterday and add your logo and all kinds of stuff. But they're going to be parked over here with that message, please wait, please wait. But you, the host, can then see who's in the waiting room, and you can pick individual people. So let's just say that we're having a Zoom meeting right now, and I'm the host, and so here I am in the Zoom room, and as the people start joining the call, they're parked over here in the waiting room area. I could then specifically, just one person at a time, say, okay, now I want to bring David into the group, and now I want to bring Garrison into the room, and now I want to bring Betty into the room, and then the four of us can have our pre-show meeting, right? Make sure everyone's got their slides in place, everyone knows who's presenting what, and then I'm going to hand it off to so-and-so. You could make someone a co-host at this time. So often when I'm having a Zoom meeting, I'll make Garrison a co-host, and that way when I'm speaking and I'm greeting people and I'm interacting with the folks, he can be kind of behind the scenes, keeping his eye on things, muting people that are being obnoxious or loud or making distraction. And I do the same thing when I'm producing a Zoom for somebody else. They make me the co-host, and I kind of sit back and they lead the show, and I'm just there to support and change the view and mute people and bring people in and out as needed. So it's very helpful if you can have a couple people who are on your team that you trust, that you give them those co-host controls, and they can help you kind of run that meeting. So that's a great place to do that. You take advantage of that waiting room, let the people kind of collect and build up, bring in the people you want ahead of time, have your powwow, make sure everyone's got their slides and everything that they need ready. And then when everyone's ready to go, okay, you ready? You ready? Let's do this. Then you click the button that says admit all, and everyone else will come swooping into the call. So these are the features that have now been enabled and kind of forced on you to use by default, but I think they're great features. And for your own security and your own highest benefit, I would encourage you to just leave those in place. Now, I may take some of them off. I may play with them and just see what it's like to keep them or not, but if you're at all tentative about the situation that's happening, or you're at all nervous about someone, hijacking your Zoom room, just leave these measures in place, and then it won't happen to you, because you get to choose who comes into your room. You get to choose who you give that password to. Does that make sense? Are you following? Let me know if you have any questions about that. Let me know if you have any follow-up questions, because these are really important for us to be able to use these tools right now, because we're all forced to kind of be online and work online. So, of course, the bad people had to pop up and take advantage of the situation, but I'm here to help, and our community is here to help you use these tools and keep moving forward in your business. So please let me know if you have any questions about any of those topics. Last week, we mentioned a couple brand new features that they were there before, but they were kind of in the background and you had to turn them on. But now they are automatically turned on and you must use them. You're being forced to use them. And those two features are the passwords and the waiting room. People were abusing the fact that Zoom rooms could be left open, and if you had the link, you would automatically just join the link. So that created some problems. There were some people that were abusing that, and they were doing not nice things. So these two restrictions came into place by default, kind of on a mandatory basis, so that you had to have a password to be able to get into the room. And then if you did get into the room, you were parked into this other area called a waiting room. So it was like these levels of access, right? So you couldn't just walk straight in. You had to have the password, and then you had to go into the waiting room, and then the host has to let you into the room. So it's a couple more steps, but it's really for your protection. It's really to help you and the people inside your room be protected, and you know that the people in that room are those that you want to be there. So those are for your protection. Let me know if you have any questions on how that works. I will point out that the password is something that is automatically generated when you create the room, or you can intentionally program what you want that password to be. So that's the first thing to note when you're creating that room, when you're scheduling that event. You can specify a password. You can override those numbers with what you want it to be. And it can be words, by the way. If you want it to be a combination of letters, words, numbers, that's totally up to you. Make it make sense to your people so that they can easily use it. And then the waiting room. Now, some people don't realize this is happening, and they don't know where to go to get to that. So I'll let you know, it's underneath the participants window. So if you're inside your Zoom control panel, especially if you're the host, you need to click on the participants button, which is the one that looks like people, because that's going to open up the people window basically and tell you all the people that are in the room with you. And the waiting room is at the top, and you'll have the option to admit one person at a time. Or if you see that all those people should come right in, there's an admit all button. So all the people can just come swooping right into your room with you. So those are a couple features that they're not exactly new, but the thing that is new is everyone is now forced to use them by default. So it may be new to you, and you may not know that that's a thing that exists now. So that's where to go to look for it. It's in the participants window. And at the bottom of the participants window, there's a mute all, unmute all, and then there's a 3 little dots button. If you open that 3 little dots button, there's more control. And check out those options, because they allow you to turn on and off the waiting room, making people go into that waiting room or not. There's a chime feature, an audio signal that will chime or not when people come in and out of the room. You can turn that on and off. And you can also lock the room. So if you got to the point where there was enough people in the room, or all the people were in the room, you could lock the meeting so no one else could join it. That's where those features are. And Zoom has created a new button called a security button that's on the bottom of the panel. And that button is kind of a shortcut to help you get to some of those other features, the waiting room, the password, those kind of things. So that's a new button at the bottom of the control panel called security, as kind of a shortcut to help you find those other ones that were previously hidden underneath the participants window and underneath those 3 dots button. Let me know if you have any questions about those, okay? And what else? What questions do you have? How can we help you with your business? Is there something, a tool, a technique, something that you need to learn to help you move forward? Or is there something that you feel is holding you back? And if you could just learn this thing, if you could just do this thing, it would really help you break through and make more progress in your business. What are those pieces? How can we help you? Come to the Ask A Web Geek Facebook group, create a brand new post right there in front of everyone and say, CJ, I don't know how to use whatever it is. I'm struggling to get whatever it is done. If only there was a tool, if only there was a resource that would help me do this, then I could do it in my business. Let me know what that is, and me and my community will come to your rescue and help you out. That's what we're here, and we're going to plunge through this jungle together. And all the links and details are available at askawebgeek.com. The internet's a jungle. Roar! Hi, Kenna. Thanks for joining the call. That's my daughter, you guys. It's so cool that she's here. Thanks for being here with us. Everyone say hi, Kenna.